play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder, directed by Mr. Kevin Nolan. In it, you'll see Mr. Michael Cohen, Miss Olivia Marcosi, Miss Samantha Dugan, Mr. Justin Henry, Miss Laura Nolan, and Mr. Zachary Wolfgang Showerman, and many others. The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. The time is just before dawn. The sky is beginning to show some streaks of light over in the east there. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the minute before it has to go, doesn't it? Well, guess I better show you how our town lies. Up here is Main Street. Way back there is the railway station. Tracks go that way. Polish towns across the tracks along with some Coulda families. Over here is the Congregational Church. Across the street's Presbyterian. We've got a bunch of other churches too. Over here is Town Hall and Post Office combined. Jail's in the basement. William Jennings Bryan once gave a speech from these very steps here. Along here's a row of stores, station posts and horse blocks in front of them. The first automobile's going to come along in about 5 years. Belonged to Banker Cartwright, our richest citizen. He lives in the big White House up on the hill there. Here's the grocery store, and here's Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Public school's over yonder, high school's still farther over. What are 9 mornings, noon times, and 3 o'clock afternoons, the whole town. You hear the yelling and screaming coming from those schoolyards. And this is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. And this is the back door. There's some scenery for those of you who think you have to have scenery. And this is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Corn, peas, beans, and heliotrope. In those days, our newspaper came out twice a week, the Grover's Corners Sentinel. This is Editor Webb's house. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. Just like Mrs. Gibbs, only she's got a lot of sunflowers, too. And right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town. Know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever come out of it as far as we know. The earliest tombstones in the cemetery up there on the mountain say 1670, 1680. And they're Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Herseys. Same names as around here now. Well, as I said, it's about dawn. The only lights on in town are in a cottage over by the tracks, where Polish mothers just had twins. And in the Joe Crowell house, where Joe Jr.'s getting up so as to deliver the paper. And in the depot, where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to fly the 545 for Boston. So, another day's begun. That's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case. And there's his wife, coming down to get her breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. The hospital's named after him. But Mrs. Gibbs died first. A long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio, and died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here, and she's up there in the cemetery now, and with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Doc Gibbs at the Congregational Church over there. You see, in our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Here's Mrs. Webb, coming down to get her breakfast, too. That's Doc Gibbs. Got that call at 1:30 this morning. And here comes Joe Crowell, Jr., delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc Gibbs.
Morning, Joe.
Someone been sick, Doc?
No, just some twins born over in Polish Town.
Do you want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it. Anything new in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My teacher, Miss Foster, is getting married to this fella down in Concord.
I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it's none of my business, but I feel if you start out life being a teacher, you ought to stay with it.
How's your knee, Joe?
My knee? I never think about it at all. Just like you said, it always sounds good it's gonna rain.
What's to tell you today? Going to rain?
No, sir.
Sure?
Yes, sir.
I want to tell you something about that boy Joe Crowd there. See, Joe was awful bright. Graduated from high school here head of his class. So he got a scholarship to Massachusetts Tech. Graduated head of his class there too. Gonna be a great engineer, Joe was. But then the war broke out and he died in France. All that education for nothing.
Giddy up, Bessie. What's the matter with you today?
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the bill.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
No, just some twins born over to Mrs. Garber-Slosky.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Going to rain, Howie?
No. Fine day. Come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockharts stopped taking their quart of milk every day. She wants to leave them a quart just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. Doc's coming down the street.
Is he? Oh, seems like you're late today, Howie.
Yes, something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what was.
Howie?
Children, time to get up.
Come on, Bessie.
George, Rebecca. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare, easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's coming at 11. Guess I know what it's about, too. Her stomach ain't what it ought to be.
Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's become of you. I do wish you would go away someplace and take a rest. I think it would do you good. Emily, it's time to get up. Wally, 7 o'clock. Oh, we've got to speak to George. Something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. Can't even get him to chop me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. All he ever thinks about is that baseball. George, Rebecca, you'll be late for school. George?
George, look sharp.
Yes, Mom.
Well, I think I'm going to try to grab about 40 winks.
Emily, Wally, you'll be late for school. Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up there and do it myself. Mom, hurry over there. I washed and ironed that blue gingham for you special. Ma, I hate that dress. Oh, hush up with you. Every day I go to school dressed like a sick turkey. Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice. Mama, Jordan's coming so heavy. I'll come up there and slap the both of you. That's what I'll do.
We've got a factory in our town too. Hear it? Makes blankets. Cartwrights own it and it brung them a fortune.
Children, now I won't have it. Breakfast is just as important as any other meal, and I won't have you two gobbling like wolves.
Put away your book, Wally.
Oh, Ma, by 10 o'clock, I gotta know all about Canada.
You know the rules well as I do.
No books at the table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. And I have a wonderful memory. Eat your breakfast.
I'm smart, too. When I'm looking at my stamp collection. Speak to your father about it when he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents is quite enough for a boy your age. I declare, I don't know how you spend it all.
Oh, Mom, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca has so much money. She has more than $1.
I've been saving it up gradual. Well, dear, I think it's good to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
Mom, there's the first bell.
I don't want it anymore. I gotta go.
Walk fast, but you don't have to run. Pull up your pants to the knee while we stay. well, if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Myrtle, did a second-hand furniture man from Boston come see you last Friday? No. Well, he called on me, and Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Weatherly's high boy, as I'm standing here.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did the old thing. Why, it was so big, I didn't know where to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, aren't you?
Oh, I
You don't know.
$350.
What's come over you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go away someplace on a real trip, I'd sell it like that. He works so hard, you know. He was out all last night helping give birth to the Garzlowski twins. You know, Myrtle, it's been the dream of my life to see Paris, France. Oh, I don't know. Sounds crazy, I suppose, but I've been promising myself for years. I haven't got the chance.
Well, what did the doctor say about it?
Well, I beat about the bush a little and said if I ever got the legacy, that's the way I put it, I'd make him take me somewhere.
And what did he say?
He said it might make him discontented with Grover's Corners to go traipsing about Europe. It's better let well enough alone, he said. Every 2 to 3 years, he takes his trips to see the battlefields of the Civil War. That's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, if that second-hand furniture man's serious about buying it, Julia, you sell it. And then you'll get to see Paris, all right? Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. Only it seems to me that once in a person's life, they have to see a country they don't speak in English and don't even want to.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Now we're going to skip a few hours. But first, we want a little more information about the town. So I've asked Mr. Webb of the Grover's Corner Sentinel to sketch in a few details of our town.
I don't need your help.
I'm just coming to support you.
I don't need your support.
I think you do. And his wife, Mrs. Webb. Hi.
Hi.
Grover's Corners has a population of 2,640. Ah, yes indeed. The population at the moment is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making it a total of
3,149.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. Men vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirect. We're lower middle class with a sprinkling of professional men, with 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we are 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, and 5% Socialist.
But that's only... And the rest? Indifferent.
Religiously, we are 85% Protestant and 12% Catholic.
And the rest?
Up. Indifferent.
Have you any other comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town, if you ask me. A lot better behaved than most, but probably a whole lot duller. But our young people seem to like it here enough. 90% of them graduating from high school settle down right here to live, even if they've been away to college.
Mr. Webb, is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, I don't know what you call much. Saturday nights, the farm hands go down to Ellery Greenhoe's stable to holler some. And we've got 1 or 2 town drunks, but they're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town.
Mr. Webb, is there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much. But maybe not in the sense that you mean. Well, maybe this is the place to tell you that we got a lot of pleasures of a kind here. Yes, we like watching the sun come over the mountains in the morning. And we all notice a great deal about the birds. Yes, we pay a lot of attention to them. And we all know about the change in seasons. Yes, everyone knows about them. But as far as those other things go, Robinson Crusoe, the Bible, Handel's Largo, and Whistler's Mother, that's about as far as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Now back to the town. It's early afternoon. All 2,642 have had their dinners, and all the dishes have been washed. There's an early afternoon calm in our town. Buzzing and a humming. Only a few buggies on Main Street. Dull number, but Doc Gibbs is in his office. Tapping what makes him say ah. And Mr. Webb's cutting his lawn over there. Only 1 man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower. Sorry, it's later than I thought. There are the children coming home from school already.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home to another.
Aww.
I promise.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Gee, I've never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
Pardon me, Mrs. Forrester.
Now you go down to the field. You ain't got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Right away, Mrs. Forrester. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech in class today, Emily.
Well, I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine. But at the last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase instead. I worked an awful long time on both of them.
You know, it's funny, Emily. From my window up there, I can just see your head nights when you're doing your homework over in your room.
Why can you?
You certainly do stick to it. I don't see how you can sit still that long. You must like school.
Well, I always feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
Yeah. Well, what are you saying, Emily? We might work out kind of a telegraph system from your window to mine. Every once in a while, you can give me a here or two on one of those algebra problems. I don't need answers. Of course not, Emily. Just some little hints.
Oh. I think hints are allowed. So, if you get stuck, George, you whistle to me, and I'll give you some hints.
Oh, Emily. You're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure that it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah. Well, but you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says that whenever I'm ready, I can come over and work on his farm. And if I'm any good, just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, I better get back to the baseball field. Thanks for the talk, Emily. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come and help me. George Gibbs and himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Mind he's growing up. How old would George be?
I don't know.
Let's see. He must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today, and I was very good.
You must recite it to your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off the spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Of course you are. All of my children have got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you yes. Well, that's enough of that.
Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was. I was the prettiest girl in town. Well, next to Mamie Cartwright.
But Mommy, you gotta say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody, to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Come along then.
Mommy, you're no help at all. Thank you, that'll do.
We'll have to interrupt here. I think now is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have just begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone. People to dig up 1,000 years from now. Of course, they've put in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're putting in a copy of the Bible, and the Constitution of the United States, and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it. And all we know about them is names of some kings and copies of wheat contracts. And contracts for the sale of slaves. Yet every night, all those families sat down to supper. The father came home from work, smoke went up the chimney. Same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real lives of the people is what we can piece together in joking poems and the comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So I'm going to have a copy of this play put in the cornerstone, and people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us. So, people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were. In the provinces north of New York, in the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were. In our growing up, in our marrying, in our living, and in our dying. A good deal of time's gone by. It's evening. You hear choir practice going on in the Congregational Church. And the children are at home, doing their schoolwork. The day's running down like a tired clock.
All right. Now, we're going to do it again. And remember, ladies, music came into this world to bring pleasure. Now, again, from the top.
Blessed be the time that binds
Softer.
our hearts in Christian love.
Softer, softer.
The fellowship.
No, stop it! Stop it! Get it out of your heads that music's only good when it's loud. You leave the loudness to the Methodists.
That's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it, Emily. Could you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
Yards? How do you mean?
In square yards.
In square yards.
Yes, George. Don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper.
Wallpaper, oh, I see. Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome. My, isn't the moonlight terrible? And choir practice is going on. I think if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way to Conoco. Hear it?
What do you know?
Well, I guess I'd better go back and try to work.
Good night, Emily. And thanks a lot.
Good night, George.
All right. It's better, but it ain't no miracle. Oh, before I forget, how many of you will be able to come in Tuesday afternoon and sing at Fred Hersey's wedding? Show your hands. That'll be fine. That'll be right nice. Now, we'll do the same music we did for Jane Trowbridge's last month. Now, we'll do Art Thou Weary, Art Thou Languid? The question, ladies and gentlemen, make it talk. Ready?
George, do you come down a minute?
Yes, Pop.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only give you a minute. How old are you, George?
I'm 16. Almost 17.
And what do you want to do when school is over?
Why, you know, Pop. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
And you'll be willing, will you, to get up early and feed the stock and hoe and hay all day long?
Sure, I will. Well, what do you mean, Pop?
Well, George, I was in my office today, and I heard a funny sound. And what do you think that sound was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother, getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing. And still, she has to go into the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you. And you eat her meals and put on the clothes that she keeps nice for you. And you run off and play baseball. Like she's some hired girl that we keep around the house. But that we don't like very much. And I knew all I had to do was bring it to your attention, son. Here's a handkerchief. George, I've decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not because you chop wood for your mother, because that's a present you give her, but because you're getting older, and I'm sure there's much more you must find to do with it.
Thanks, Pop.
Tomorrow's your payday. You can count on it. Rebecca probably feels like she deserves a little more too. I wonder what happened to your mother. Choir practice never was as late as this before.
It's only 8, Pop.
I don't know why she's in that old choir. She hasn't any more voice than an old crow. She's traipsing around the corners at this time of night. Isn't it about time you retired, son?
Yes, Pop.
I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper.
My place.
Good night.
Real nice quiet cats with books.
Myrtle Webb, would you look at that moon? Wow.
Now, naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of the others. But now that we're alone, really, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Now, Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drunk year after year, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about the trouble he's been through. And Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him on there in his job, well, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not to notice it.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't. It's getting better. It doesn't happen anywhere near so often. My, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. But I better be going. Those children will be up till all hours. Good night.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
Yes, it's bright as day out. I can see Mr. Soames scowling out the window now. You'd think we've been to a dance the way men folk carry on.
Good night, Luella.
Good night, Julia.
Well, we had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Oh, Frank, it ain't any later than usual.
And you stopping at the corner to gossip with a bunch of hens.
Now, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come out and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. Isn't that wonderful? What did you do all the while I was away?
Oh, I read as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there was something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson far gone, was he?
Worst I ever seen him. How will that end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
I suppose I know about Simon Stimson's affairs than anyone else in this town. Some people just ain't made for small town life. I don't know how that'll end. But there's nothing we can do but just let it be. Come on, get in.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
Well, I believe it's my duty to make plans that you get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, Frank, well, I'm going to insist on it.
Now, Julia, there's no sense in going over that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Come on, Julia. You'll catch your death of cold before you know it. I had a talk with George tonight. You should have your wood chopped up for a while anyway. No. Start heading upstairs.
Oh, dear. There always seems so many things to pick up. You know, Frank, Mrs. Fairchild always locks her door every night. All those people up that part of town, too.
They're getting city-fied. That's the trouble with them. They've got nothing fit to burgle. And everybody knows it.
Come on.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window. You always spoil everything.
Well, let me look just a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think, do you? I think maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer and there'll be a big explosion.
Oh, Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting near, then the guys who sit up all night with telescopes would see it first, and they'd tell all about it. It'd be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, suppose it is.
$9:30. Most of the lights are out. No, there's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. Here comes Mr. Webb, after putting his newspaper to bed.
Good evening. evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a mood.
Yep.
All quiet tonight?
Simon Stimson is rolling around a little. Just saw his wife moving out to hunt for him. So I looked the other way. There he is now.
Good evening, Simon. The town seemed to have settled down for the night pretty well. I guess we better do the same. Good evening, Simon. Yes, the town seemed to have settled down for the night pretty well. I guess we better do the same. Can I walk a ways with you?
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
He's seen a peck of trouble, one thing after another. Oh, Bill, if you catch my boy smoking cigarettes, could you give him a word for me? He thinks a lot of you.
I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Leastways, not more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Well, good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Well, why aren't you in bed?
I don't know. I just can't sleep yet, Papa. The moonlight's so wonderful. And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs' heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Yes. Having any troubles on your mind, do you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, enjoy yourself and don't let your mother catch you.
Good night, Papa.
Good night, Emily.
I never told you about that letter Jane Crowfoot got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope, the address was like this. It said, Jane Crowfoot, the Crowfoot Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What's funny about that?
But listen, it's not finished. The United States of America, continent of North America, the Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
What do you know?
And the postman brought it just the same.
What do you know?
Thank you, children. That's the end of the first act, friends. You can go smoke now, those that smoke. 3 years have gone by. Yes, the sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rains brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And a number of people who thought they were right young and spry find they can't bound up a flight of stairs the way they used to, without their hearts fluttering a little. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Well, nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways, too. A number of our young people fell in love and got married. Most everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean. In our town, there ain't hardly any exceptions. Most everybody in the world climbs into their graves married. The first act is called Daily Life, and this act's called Love and Marriage. There's another act coming after this, and, well, I reckon you can guess what that's about. So, 3 years later, 1904. It's July 7th, just after high school commencement. That's about the time most of our young people jump up and get married. As soon as they finish their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, looks like they feel themselves fit to be married. It's early morning again. Only this time, it's raining. It's been pouring, thundering, the other for 40, and no summer vacation. They raised 2 kids apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never a nervous breakdown. Never felt themselves hard used, neither. It's like what one of those poets said. You've got to love life to have life. You've got to have life to love life. That's what they call a vicious circle.
Giddy up, Bessie.
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk. And there's Cy Crowd, delivering the paper like his brother before him.
Morning, Hal.
Morning, Si. Anything in the papers I don't know?
Nothing much, except for news about the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners ever saw, George Gibbs.
Reckon he is.
He could hit and run bases, too.
Yup. Mighty fine ball player. Whoa, Bessie! I guess I could stop and talk if I'd mind to.
I don't see how you could give up a thing like that just to get married. Would you, Howie?
Can't tell, Si. Never had no talent that way. You're up early, Bill.
Seeing if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood. River's been rising all night.
Old side crowd here is all worked up about George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Yes, sir, that's the way it goes. Back in '84, we had a player side. Even George Gibbs couldn't touch him. Named Hank Todd. Went down to Maine and became a parson. Wonderful ball player. Howie, how's the weather look to you?
Oh, it ain't bad. Think maybe it'll come up for good.
Good morning, Howie. Do you think it'll rain again?
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. Rain so heavy, think maybe it'll come up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
Well, we got a house full of relations coming, Howie. Looks like I'll need 3 milk and 2 of cream.
My wife says to tell you, we both hope they'll be very happy, Mrs. Gibbs. No, they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. Tell your wife I hope she gets to the wedding.
Yes, she'll be there. She'll be there if she can. Morning, Mrs. Webb.
Good morning, Howie. I know I told you that I needed 3 quarts of milk, but I hope you can spare me another.
Yes, and the 2 of cream?
Yes. Is it going to rain again, Howie?
Well, just saying Mrs. Gibbs is how maybe it'll clear up. My wife told me to tell you as how we both hope they'll be very happy, Mrs. Gibbs. What? No, they will.
Thank you. And thank Mrs. Newsom. And we count on seeing the 2 of you at the wedding.
Yes, Mrs. Webb. We hope to get there. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Bessie.
Well, Ma, the day has come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't say another word. Feel it crying every minute. Sit down and drink your water.
The groom's up shaving himself. Only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Keeps whistling and smiling, almost like he's happy to leave us. Keeps saying I do to the mirror, but it don't sound very convincing to me.
Frank, I don't know how we'll get along. I've laid out his clothes and seen to what he's put on warm things. Frank, they're too young. Only won't think of such things. He'll catch a death cold within a week.
I was remembering my wedding morning, Julia.
Don't start that, Frank.
I was the scaredest young fella in the state of New Hampshire. I thought I'd make a mistake for sure. When I saw you coming down that aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Only trouble was, I'd never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church, marrying a total stranger.
How do you think I felt? Frank, weddings are perfectly awful things. Farces, that's what they are. Here, I made you some.
Why, Julia Hersey, French toast?
It ain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How did you sleep last night, Julia?
Heard a lot of hours struck off.
Yes, I get a shock every time I think of George becoming a family man, that great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so terrifying in the world as a son. The relationship between father and son is the darndest awkwardest.
Mother-daughter's been picked a guy to let me tell you.
They'll have their troubles, I suppose. But it's none of our business. Everyone's entitled to their own troubles.
Yes. People were meant to go through life 2 by 2. It ain't natural to be lonesome.
Julia, you know one of the things I was first scared of when I married you?
I'll go along with you.
I was worried we wouldn't have enough material for conversation more than last us a few weeks. I thought for sure we'd run out and eat our meals in complete silence. But you and I have been conversing for 20 years now without any noticeable barren spells.
Oh my gosh. Yes, well, good weather, bad weather, tain't very choice, but I always find something to say. Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No. Only day of the year she isn't up there bossing everybody around. She's locked herself in her room. I got the impression she's crying.
Lord sakes, it's got to stop. Rebecca, come down and get your breakfast.
Good morning, everybody. Only 5 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where are you going?
Just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
Well, put on your overshoes. It's raining torrents. You won't go out this house without you prepared for it.
No, it's just a step.
George will catch your death of cold and cough all through the service.
George, do as your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weather. Well, while you're in my house, you live wisely. Thank you. Oh, I wonder if Mrs. Webb is used to call us this early in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee first.
Back in a minute. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Goodness, you frightened me. Now, George, you can come in a minute out of the way, but you know I can't ask you in.
Why not?
George, you know as well as I do, it's bad luck for the groom to see his bride on the wedding day, not until he sees her in church.
Well, that's just superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Hello, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in a superstition like that, do you?
There's a lot of sense in some superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, George, and you don't want to be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How's Emily?
She hasn't woken up yet. Haven't heard a sound out of her.
He's asleep?
Well, no wonder. We were up till all hours, sewing and packing. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. You sit down here a minute with Mr. Webb and drink this cup of coffee, and I'll go upstairs and see she doesn't surprise you. There's some bacon over there, too, but don't be long about it.
Well, George, how are you?
Fine. Well, Mr. Webb, what sense could be in a superstition like that?
Well, you see, on her wedding day, a girl's apt to be might nervous with clothing and other things. Don't you think that's probably it?
Yes, I never thought of that.
Yes, a girl's apt to be might nervous on her wedding day.
I wish a fella could get married without all that marching up and down.
Every man who has ever lived has felt that way, my boy, but it hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who build up these weddings.
Would you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Yes. Yes, of course. Marriage is a wonderful thing, and don't you forget that.
No, sir. How old were you when you got married, Mr. Webb?
Well, you see, I'd been to college, and I figured I'd settle down a little, but Mrs. Webb wasn't much older than what Emily is. Age hasn't much got to do with it, not compared with other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was remembering something that my father told me on the day of my wedding. Yes, Charles, he said, the first thing you got to do is start off by showing her who's boss. Give her an order, anything, even if it doesn't make any sense, just to let her know who's in charge. Yes, then he said if anything about her irritates you, her conversation, or anything, just get up and leave the house. That'll show her. Then he said, never, ever let her know how much money you make. Never.
Well, Mr. Webb, I don't think I could.
So I took the opposite of his advice. I've been very happy ever since. So let that be a lesson to you not to take advice on personal matters. George, are you going to have chickens on your farm?
Well, Uncle Luke's never been much interested.
A book came into my office the other day on the philo system of raising chickens. I wish you'd read it. I'm going to start a small way myself in the backyard and get an incubator for the cellar.
Charles, are you talking about that old incubator again? I thought you'd be talking about something
Well,
worthwhile.
If you want to give the boys some advice, I'm just going to go ahead and head upstairs.
George, Emily has to come downstairs and eat her breakfast. She said she loves you very much, but she doesn't want to lay eyes on you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I guess you've never heard that old superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the cavemen, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law on the day of the wedding, or near it. So let that be a lesson to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now, we'll have to interrupt again here. You see, we want to know how all this began. This wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like that begin. Well, you know how it is. You're 21, 22, you make some decisions, and whoosh, you're 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years. And that white-haired lady sitting next to you has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? Well, George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation they had when they first knew that, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do, I want you to try and remember what it was like to have been very young, particularly the days when you were first in love. You were like a person sleepwalking, and you didn't quite see the street that you were on, and you didn't quite hear everything that was said to you. You're just a little bit crazy. Now, they'll be coming out of high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the junior class, and as it's June, that means he'll be president of the senior class all next year. Emily's been elected secretary and treasurer. Yep, here they are, coming down Main Street now.
Emily, can I carry your books home for you?
Why? Thank you. It isn't far.
Excuse me a minute, Emily. Say, Bob, if I'm a little late, start practice anyway. Then give her some more on Highlands.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Goodbye, Lizzie. I'm awfully glad you were elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
Well, I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you asked me, I might as well say it right out, George, that goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. Well, what is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the last year. And I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but I've got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
Shame? What do you mean?
Well, up to a year ago, I used to like you a lot. And I used to watch you as you did everything because we've been friends so long. And then you began spending all your time at baseball. And you never stopped to speak to anybody anymore. And George, it's a fact, you got awful conceited and stuff up, and all the girls say so. And it hurts me to hear him say it, but I've got to agree with him a little. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but I can't be sorry I said it.
I'm glad you said it, Emily. I never thought that such a thing was happening to me. I I guess it's hard for a fellow not to have faults screaming his character.
Well, I always expect a man to be perfect, and I think he should be.
I don't think it's possible to be perfect.
Well, my father is. And as far as I can see, your father is. There's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
I've always felt that it was the other way around, that men aren't naturally good, but girls are.
Well, you should know right now that I'm not perfect. It's not easy for a girl to be perfect as a man because we girls are more nervous. No, I'm sorry, I said all that about you. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
And now I can see that's not the truth at all, and I suddenly feel that it isn't important anyway.
And Emily, would you like an ice cream soda? Something before you go home?
Well, thank you. I would.
Hello, George. Hello, Emily. What do you have? Why, Emily Webb, what you been crying about? She just got into an awful scare, Mr. Morgan. She almost got hit by that hardware store wagon. Well, now, you take a drink of water, Emily. You look all shook up. You gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street these days. Gets worse every year. What do you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate. Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily. Have an ice cream soda with me. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, there are 125 horses in Grover's Corners this minute I'm talking to you. State inspector was in here yesterday. And now they're bringing in all these automobiles. I tell you, the best thing you can do is just stay home. Why, I remember the day a dog could lay down and go to sleep all day in the middle of Main Street. Nothing come along with disturbing. There they are. Enjoy it. Yes, dear, I'm coming.
They're so expensive.
No, Emily. Don't think of that. We're celebrating our election. And do you know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating because I've got a friend who tells me all the things that ought to be told to me.
George, please don't think of that. I don't know why I said it. It's not true. You're...
No, Emily. You stick to it. I'm glad you spoke to me like you did. But you'll see, I'm going to change so quick. You bet I'm going to change. And Emily, I want to ask you a favor.
What?
If I go off to State Agricultural College next year, will you write me a letter once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. It certainly seems that being away 3 years, one would get out of touch with things. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while. Grover's Corners is a very important place when you think of all New Hampshire. I think it's a very nice town.
The day wouldn't come when I wouldn't want to know everything that's happening here. I know that's true, Emily.
Well, I'll try to keep my letters interesting.
You know, Emily, whenever I get a farmer, I always ask him if he thinks it's important to go to State Agricultural School to be a good farmer.
Why, George?
Yeah, and some of them even say it's a waste of time. You got all those things out of the pamphlet the government sends out. Uncle Luke's getting old. He's about ready for me to start taking over his farm. Tomorrow if I could.
Mine?
Yeah. Like you say, being gone all that time, in other places, meeting new people. Well, I suppose new people aren't any better from old. But they almost never are. Emily, I feel that you're about as good a friend as I've got. I don't need to go and meet the people in other towns.
But George, maybe it's very important for you to learn all about cattle judging and soils and those things. Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I won't go. I'll tell Pa about tonight.
Why, George, I don't see why you have to decide right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that fault in my character. What you said was right, but there was one thing wrong with it. That was when you said that for a year I wasn't noticing people. And you, for example, you said that you noticed me when I did everything. I was doing the same for you all the time. I always made sure where you were, sitting in the bleachers, who you were with. And for 3 days now, I've been trying to walk home with you, but something's always gotten in the way. Yesterday, I waited for you over by the wall, and you walked home with Miss Corcoran.
Why, George? Well, life's awful funny. How could I have known that? Why,
Emily, I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to stay in agricultural school. I think that once you've found someone who you're fond of, someone who's very fond of you, I mean, likes you enough to be interested in your character, that's just as important as college is. Even more so. That's what I think.
I think it's awfully important, too.
Emily,
Yes, George?
Emily, if I do change, if I do improve, would you be, I mean, could you be?
I am now. I always have been.
So, I guess so. Pretty important talk we've been having.
Yes. Yes.
Wait just here. I'll walk you home. Mr. Morgan, I'll have to go home and get the money to pay for these. It'll only take me a minute.
What's that? George gives. You mean to tell me?
Yes, but Mr. Morgan, I had my reasons. Here's my gold watch. You can keep it until I come back with the money.
That's all right. You keep your watch. I'll trust you.
I'll only be 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George, not day over. You got all over your shock, Emily?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. It was nothing.
Well, now we're ready to get on with the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. We can't get them all into one wedding naturally, especially not into a wedding in Grover's Corners, where they're awfully plain and short. In this wedding, I play the minister. This time 9 years have gone by, friends. Summer, 1913. Gradual changes in Grover's Corners. Horses are getting rarer. Farmers coming into town now in Fords. Everybody locks their house doors now at night. Ain't been any burglars around, but everybody's heard about them. On the whole, though, you'd be surprised how little things change around here. And this is certainly an important part of Grover's Corners. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. sky, lots of clouds, often lots of sun and moon and stars. Come up here on a clear afternoon, you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are. And there, quite a ways down, is Grover's Corners. Yes, beautiful spot up here. Mountain laurel and lilac. I often wonder why people want to be buried in places like Woodlawn, Brooklyn. Lincoln spent the same time up here in New Hampshire. Over here are the Old Stones, 1670, 1680. Strong-minded people that come a long way to be independent. Summer folks come up here to laugh at the funny sayings on the stones. I guess that don't do any harm. Genealogists come all the way from Boston. Get paid by city folks for looking up their ancestors. They want to make sure they're daughters of the American Revolution and of the Mayflower. I guess that don't do any harm either. Everywhere you get near the human race, there's layers and layers of nonsense. Over there, the Civil War veterans, iron flags on their graves. New Hampshire boys that had a notion the Union ought to be kept together, though they'd never seen more than about 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, friends. United States of America. And they went and died about it. Over here's the new section. There's your friend, Mrs. Gibbs. And Mr. Stimson, organist of the Congregational Church. And Mrs. Soames, who enjoyed the wedding so much, you remember? And a lot of others. There's Editor Webb's boy, Wallace, whose appendix burst on a camping trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, an awful lot of sorrow sort of quieted down up here. People just wild with grief bring their relatives up that hill. And then times, sunny days, rainy days, snow. We're all glad they're in a beautiful place. And we're coming up here ourselves when our fit's over. Now, there are some things we all know, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal. And it ain't houses, it ain't names, it ain't the earth, and it ain't even the stars. We all know in our bones something is eternal. And that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people ever lived have been telling us that for 5,000 years. And yet you'd be surprised how people are often letting go of that fact. There's something way down deep that's eternal about every human being. Now, you know as well as I do that the dead don't stay interested in us living people for very long. Gradually they lose hold of the earth. The ambitions they had, the pleasures they had, the things they suffered, and the people they loved. They get weaned away from the earth. That's the way I put it. Weaned away. And they stay here while the earth part of them slowly burns away. Burns out. And all that time, they slowly get indifferent to what's going on in Grover's Corners. They're waiting. They're waiting for something that they feel is coming. Something important, great. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part in them to come out clear? Now, some of the things they're going to say, maybe it'll hurt your feelings, but that's just the way it is. Mother and daughter, husband and wife, enemy and enemy, money and miser, all those terribly important things kind of grow pale around here. When the memory's gone, and your identity. Well, here's some living people. There's Joe Stoddard, our undertaker, supervising a new made grave. And here comes Samantha Craig, Grover's Corners girl that left town to go out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Yes, good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me see now. Do I know you?
Why, I'm Samantha Craig.
Gracious sakes alive, of all people. I should have known you'd be back for the funeral. You've been away a long time, Samantha.
Yes, I've been away over 12 years now, but I'm out in Buffalo now, Joe. I was back east when I got news of my cousin's death, so I thought I'd combine things a little and come and see the old home. You look well.
Yes, can't complain. Very sad our journey here today, Samantha.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I always say, I hate to supervise when a young person is taken. They'll be here any minute now. I had to come in early today. My son's supervising at the home.
Oh, Farmer McCarty. I used to do chores for him after school. He had the lumbago.
Yes, we brought Father McCarty here a number of years ago now.
And, why, this is my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that she... Of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost his wife 2-3 years ago about this time. And today's another bad blow for him, too.
That's my sister Carrie's girl. Samantha Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Do they choose their own verses much, Joe?
No, not usual. Mostly the bereaved pick a verse.
Doesn't sound like Aunt Julia. There aren't many of those Hersey sisters left now, are there? Let me see. I wanted to find my father and mother.
Ah, over there with the Craigs. Avenue F.
He was the organist at church, wasn't he? Drank a lot, we used to say.
No one was supposed to know about it. He'd seen a peck of trouble. Took his own life, you know.
Oh, did he?
Hung himself in the attic. They tried to hush it up, but of course it got around. Chose his own epitaph. You can see it there. It ain't a verse exactly.
Why, it's just some notes of music. What is it?
Oh, I wouldn't know. It was wrote up in the Boston papers around that time.
Joe, when did she die of?
Who?
My cousin.
Oh, didn't you hear? Had some trouble bringing a baby into the world. What's her second, though? There's a little boy, about 4 years old now.
And the grave's gonna be over there?
Yes, there ain't much room over here among the Gibbses, so we're opening up a whole new gift section. Ah, excuse me. See, they're coming now.
Who is it, Julia?
My daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
Well, I declare, the road up here must have been awful muddy. When did she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth? I've forgotten all about that. My, wasn't life awful? Wonderful?
Wonderful, was it?
Simon. Now remember.
I remember Emily's wedding. Perfectly lovely wedding. And I remember Emily reading the class poem at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the smartest girls ever graduated high school. I called on them at their new farm just before I died. Perfectly nice farm.
It's on the same road we lived on. Yes, right smart farm. I always liked this hymn. I was hoping they'd play a hymn. Hello.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, Wally. Hello, Mother Gibbs.
Emily.
Hello. It's raining.
Yes. He'll be gone soon, dear. Just rest yourself.
It seems thousands and thousands of years since Papa remembered that was my favorite hymn. Oh, I wish I'd been here a long time. I don't like being new here. How do you do, Mr. Stinson?
How do you do, Emily?
Mother Gibbs? George and I have made that farm into just the best place you ever saw. We thought of you all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and the great log cement drinking fountain for the stock. We bought that out of the money you left us.
I did?
Don't you remember, Mother Gibbs? The legacy you left us? Why, it was over $350.
Yes. Yes, Emily.
Well, there's a patent device on this drinking fountain so it never overflows, Mother Gibbs, and it never sinks below a certain mark they have there. It's fine. It won't be the same to George without me. But it's a lovely farm. Live people don't understand, do they?
No, not very much.
They're sort of shut up in little boxes, aren't they? I feel as though I didn't last 1,000 years ago. My boy is spending the day at Mrs. Carter's. Oh, Mr. Carter, my little boy is spending the day at your house.
Is he?
Yes, he loves it there. Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford too. Never gives any trouble. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away? Of being one of them? How long does it?
Dear, just wait and be patient.
I know. Look. They're finished. They're going. Look. Father Gibbs is bringing some of my flowers to you. He looks just like George, doesn't he? Oh, Mother Gibbs, I never realized before how troubled and in the dark live persons are. Look at him. I loved him so. From morning till night, that's all they are. Trouble.
Little cooler than it was.
Yes. Rain's cooled it off a little. Those northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they?
If it isn't a rain, it's a 3-day blow.
But Mother Gibbs, one can go back. One can go back there again into living. I feel it, I know it. Why, just then for a moment I was thinking about the farm. And for a minute I was there and my baby on my lap plain as day.
Yes, dear. Of course you can.
I can go and live all those days over again. Why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go and live back there. Again.
Yes. Some have tried, but they soon come back here.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, don't. It's not what you think it'd be.
But I won't live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy one. I'll choose the day I first knew I loved George. Why should that be painful?
You not only live it, but watch yourself living it.
Yes.
And as you watch it, you see the thing that they, down there, never know. You see the future. You know what's going to happen afterwards.
But is that painful? Why?
That's not the only reason you shouldn't do it, Emily. When you've been here longer, you'll see that our life here should get all that. And think only of what's ahead. Be ready for what's ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
But Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I know. It's all I had.
Emily, it isn't wise. Really, it isn't.
But it's a thing I must know for myself. Well, choose a happy day anyway.
No. Choose an unimportant day at least. Choose the least important day of your life. It'll be important enough.
Then it can't be since I was married, or since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least, can I? I choose my 12th birthday.
All right. February 11th, 1899. Tuesday. Do you want me a special time of day?
Oh, I want the whole day.
We'll begin at dawn. You remember it had been snowing for several days, but it stopped the night before and they'd begun to clear the roads. The sun's coming up.
Why, there's Main Street. Why, there's Mr. Bergen's drugstore before he changed it. And there's the livery stable.
Yes. It's 1899. This is 14 years ago.
Oh, that's the town I knew as a little girl. And look, there's the old white fence that used to be around our house. Oh, I'd forgotten that. Oh, I love it so. Are they inside?
Yes. Your mother will be coming downstairs in a minute to make breakfast.
Will she?
And you remember? Your father had been away for a couple days, but he came back on the early morning train.
No.
He'd been back to his old college to make a speech.
Well, there's Howie Newsom. There's our policeman. But he's dead. He died.
Morning, Howie.
Morning. You're up early.
Been rescuing a party. Darn near froze to death. Got drunk and lay out in snowdrifts. Thought he was in bed when I shook him.
There's Joe Crow.
Good morning, Mr. Warren.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom.
Morning, Mrs. Webb.
Ooh, it's cold.
Yup. 10 below by my barn.
Think of it. Just keep yourself wrapped up.
Yes, Mrs. Webb.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes, dear. I laid it out for you special on the dresser there. If it were a snake, it would bite you.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning, Bill.
Morning, Mr. Webb. You're up early.
Yes, I've just been back from New York State after visiting my old college. Everything all right here?
I was called up this morning to rescue a Polish fellow. Darn near froze to death he was.
We must get it in the paper.
He wanted much.
Good morning, Mother.
How did it go, Charles?
Fine, I guess. I told him a few things. Everything all right here?
Yes. Can't think of anything that's happened special. It's been right cold. Howie Newsom says it's 10 below over at his barn.
It's even colder over at Hamilton College. The students' ears are falling off. It ain't Christian. Paper have any mistakes in it?
None that I noticed. Coffee's ready when you want it. Charles, don't forget, it's Emily's birthday. Did you remember to get her anything?
Yes, I got something right here. Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Don't interrupt her now, Charles. You can see her at breakfast. She's slow enough as it is.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't bear it. They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I love you all. Everything. I can't look at everything hard enough.
is from your Aunt Carrie, and I reckon you can guess who brought in that postcard album. I found it on the doorstep this morning when I brought in the milk. George Gibbs. He must have come over in the cold pretty early. Right nice of him.
Oh, George. I'd forgotten that.
Chew that bacon good and slow. It'll keep you warm on a cold day.
Oh, Mama, just look at me 1 minute as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. You were a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs, Mama. Wally's dead, too. Mama, his appendix burst on the camping trip to Crawford Notch, and we felt just terrible about it, don't you remember? But just for a moment now, we're all together. Mama, just for a moment, we're happy. Let's look at one another.
That and the yellow paper I found in the attic amongst your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now, and I figured you'd like it.
And this is from you. Why, Mama, it's lovely, and it's just what I wanted. It's beautiful.
Well, I'd hoped you'd like it. Your Aunt Carrie couldn't find one in Concord, so I had to send all the way to Boston for it. Wally has something for you, too. He made it in manual training class, so make sure you make a big fuss about it. Your father has something for you, too. Don't know what it is myself. Shh, here he comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't! I can't go on. It goes so fast we don't have time to look at one another. So all that was going on and we never noticed. Take me back. Up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners. And Mama. And Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking. And my butternut tree. And Mama's sunflowers. And food. And coffee. And new iron dresses. Hot baths. And sleeping. And waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anyone to realize you. Do human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute?
No. Saints and poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No. I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are, just blind people.
Look. It's clear enough. Stars.
Well, Mr. Stimson, I should have listened to them.
Yes. Now you know. Now you know that's what it was to be alive. To move about in a cloud of ignorance. To go up and down, trampling on the feelings of those about you. To spend and waste time as if you had a million years. To be at the mercy of one self-centered passion or another. Yes, that's the happy existence you wanted to go back to. Ignorance and blindness.
Simon Stimson, that ain't the whole truth and you know it. Emily, that star. I forget it.
My My boy Joel was a sailor. He knew them all. He used to sit on the porch every night and tell them all by name. Yes, sir. Wonderful.
A star is mighty good company. Yes. Yes, 'tis.
One of them coming.
That's funny. Ain't no time for one of them to be here. Mother Gibbs. It's George.
Dear, just rest yourself.
It's George.
And my boy Joel, who knew the stars, he used to say it took millions of years for that tiny speck of light to reach Earth. Don't seem like a body could believe it, but that's what he used to say.
Goodness, that ain't no way to behave.
Goodness sake.
He ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs.
Yes,
They don't understand. Do they?
no, dear. They don't understand.
Most everybody's asleep in Grover's Corners. There are a few lights on. Shorty Hawkins down at the depot just watched the Albany train go by. And in the livery stable, someone's sitting up late and talking. Yes, it's clearing up. And there are the stars, doing their old crisscross journeys in the sky. Scholars haven't settled the matter yet, but they seem to think there are no living beings up there. Just chalk, fire. Only this one is straining away. Straining away all the time to make something of itself. Strain so great that every 16 hours, everybody lies down and gets a rest. $11 o'clock. Most everybody's resting in Grover's Corners. Tomorrow's going to be another day. You get a good rest, too. Good night.
I'm not go to hell with Laura crying.
program is over.